What's up, guys? So, had a question on stocks versus individual stocks versus mutual funds or baskets of stocks. I'll call them baskets. When I say baskets of stocks, I mean exchange traded funds, mutual funds, investing in an index as a whole. So the S&P 500 would be 500 stocks. Um, the Dow's too small. The Russell 3000 would be it'll mirror 3,000 stocks, that kind of thing. Um, Somebody asked me, is there any real benefit between individual stocks and a basket of stocks? So the reason this question comes up from people, maybe not this particular person, but just in general, when I hear these questions, is because we've all heard the stories, right? Heard the stories of Google or these kind of companies where folks on the ground floor of Google, the janitors, the cleaning staff, the admin staff, the clerical staff, you know, got shares of stocks. When they first came in, they've been working there 15, 20 years, and now they're millionaires from being janitors because the stock shot up so much. They put all their money, all their retirement money into this one stock, Google in this example. Google exploded, and now they're all millionaires, right? I worked at a company actually very, very recently where I did corporate finance work at a company that gave you shares of stock. And, over time, guys that have been there, blue collar guys, hardworking guys, but put all their retirement into these stocks, or, we're given a lot of stocks and the stock price skyrocketed and now everybody's doing really well financially. So you hear these stories and it makes you think, well, why can't we do it? Why can't we pick the stock? And there's so many books about stock picking, right? Um, Peter Lynch, I think, has a famous one. Warren Buffett is known to be a great stock picker or an investor. Um, Keep in mind, Warren Buffett doesn't pay the same price we do. That's another story. But anyway, you hear all these guys doing it, and so it's like, why can't we do it, right? So here's kind of the skinny on individual stocks versus baskets of stocks. In an individual stock, there is the risk of the stock going to zero. In a basket of stocks, there is less risk that all the stocks will go to zero. That risk is called diversification. Now, a lot of people know about diversification, but you still hear these home runs in individual stocks, which do happen. I like to parallel it to a sports analogy. I'm a sports guy, I'm a basketball guy, I'm a sports guy. So let's parallel it to a basketball analogy. Golden State Warriors and the NBA, National Basketball Association, are doing really well right now. Would you rather bet that a player like a Steph Curry or a Kevin Durant will score 40 or 50 in a game? Or would you bet that the Golden State Warriors as a whole would win the game? Betting on an individual player is similar to betting on a stock. Betting on the team is more, it parallels a basket of stocks, an ETF, S&P, mutual funds, right? There's so much risk on if that individual player would score 50 points, he can get hurt, coach can pull him, they could be blowing the other team out, and then they take him out of the game. There's so much risk, right? The player's capable, but there's a lot of risk. There's less risk that the Golden State Warriors will win the game as a whole, right? So when we're talking about retirement accounts, money that you plan on using in the future to live when you retire, you want to keep the risk as low as possible, but still have the most opportunity to gain, right? That's why we get a basket of stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, indices, baskets of stocks. And then we count on that slow and steady 10% over time, which will still get us to millionaires as we've talked millions of times. If you've got money outside of the 10, 15, 20% you're investing, outside of that, if you got disposable money that you would say, let's say, go to Vegas with, right? Then, yeah, go, you can do individual stocks, and some people do really well. Most people lose money, but some people do really well. And you can try your hand at it that way, not for retirement. Retirement, we need less risk with an opportunity to grow the money. That's why we do the basket. Disposable income you have, if you want to just kind of play around with it and day trade and look at stocks, fine. Make sure it's disposable income, because 9 times out of 10 you're going to lose the money. Why do we lose the money? Right? Why is it hard to pick stocks? Because the stock market isn't mathematical, right? When we talked about the stock market, many videos ago, we talked about how to get to stock price. P ratio multiplied by the earnings per share. Earnings per share is mathematical. It's how much your net income is divided by how many shares you have outstanding. It's mathematical. It's math. PE has nothing to do with it, right? It turns into a number, but how it's derived is emotion, right? If something happens in Iraq today, right, a P ratio of a company has nothing to do with Iraq. Will go down or go up. Who knows? Um, why? Because there's a lot of players on the back end, right behind the scenes in the stock market, institutional investors, sophisticated investors, brokerage companies themselves, media, news. There's a lot of things going, commodities. There's a lot of things going on in the back end that doesn't translate to earnings per share and growth rates over time. It doesn't translate day to day. So when you look at an individual stock, especially when people get tips on stocks, when you look at an individual stock, you got to keep that in mind because if you're betting retirement money on it, you can have a lot of setbacks. You can have a lot of setbacks. Now, if you had that stock that one stock in a basket of 500, if that stock tanks, you'll probably have another stock that does really well. You have a whole lot of stocks that do fairly well, and you'll get your historical rate of return over time. Right? Some years you won't, some years you'll do better, but over time you'll get that historical rate of return. That's not the same with stocks. You can pick an individual stock that goes to zero and goes away, right? It happens all the time. It happens all the time. Do some research on it, right? I mean, even the ones we know, the Enrons of the world, the WorldComs of the world. These were huge companies, right? Fortune 500 companies that are gone, right? Even look at companies like BlackBerry. 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, probably 10 years ago, BlackBerry was the phone to use in corporate. Everybody had Blackberries. Look around to see how many Blackberries are out now. 10 years ago, nobody would have thought Blackberries would go away. How many people do you know with a Blackberry today, right? So it happens, right? It happens, it happens, it happens. So that's why we don't want to tie our retirement money in with that. Disposable money, fine. Retirement money, let's stick with indices, mutual funds, ETFs, baskets of stocks, all right? So that's the difference, right? What are the pros on the individual? It can go up and do great, but you can lose a ton of money. So keep it with disposable, and that's why we stick with the basket of stocks for retirement. So wanted to hit that. Norm Baker Jr., if you want to work together on any of this, hit me below. If you got any questions you want me to quickly answer for you. And other than that, I'll get back with you later. Peace.